You are listening to or watching What's the Tea? My name is Lydia.
My name's Andy.
And basically, we are two former support workers catching up with each other and navigating life over a cuppa. Andy, have you got your beverage?
I do. I have a glass of fine water.
Still letting us down, Andy. Still letting us down.
It's hydrating, Lydia. It's hydrating.
True. Coffee is not very hydrating. Also, we like to say that we admit that we are no way an expert in adulting. You should see some of the conversations that me, Andy, and our friend Chris have over navigating certain life things. But sometimes during our career as support workers, we've given some really good advice, and it shocked us. We're like, wow, that was actually really good advice. And so we designed this podcast with all the little bits that we have picked up over our very long career. We won't say how long because it will make us feel old.
I'll feel old.
And we have a different topic each week to discuss.
Yeah, so coming up on today's edition, we are talking all things introverts, extroverts, and people in between. We should also mention a few other bits of housekeeping as well, in that we're obviously not in the studio for this, so if there's kind of background noises and things like that, that's okay. If you hear what sounds like a dog, it could be a dog in the background.
Yeah, I've still got my parents' dog with me, but with us in this podcast.
I would welcome dog here.
So she might bark, whimper. I also have a cat as well, so she might decide to climb over me. And she's been a bit weird at the moment. She's crying a lot.
Aww.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she's just
That's not fun
like, get this dog away from me. This dog's been here too long. I want my owner back.
Now that is more like a cartoon. We are also recording this just under 2 weeks into March, so if something happens between now and when this is released and we don't mention it, that's the reason why. But before we get on with talking about all things introversion and extroversion, of course, how are you, Lydia? Anything coming up?
I'm good. It's my last day before a 2-week holiday, which I'm quite excited about, hence why we're recording it so far in advance. But yeah, so I've been in my new job as Torbay housing manager coming up for a year already, which is crazy. And in that year time frame, I have had, since starting this job, only had 2 weeks off, which is absolutely crazy in the space of 12 months. How I've survived with only having 2 weeks off, and one of those weeks I was moving house, so it wasn't really a holiday. I don't know how I've survived this long without a break. So I feel like I am crawling to my annual leave, which starts at 5 p.m. today when I finish my shift. So whoop, whoop. So just doing a week at home and then 5 days in Cornwall with just the dog. And then my parents will be back from their cruise, and Bonnie will not be living with me for a little while.
And that would be sad to say goodbye.
Yes. And people get more excited about seeing Bonnie than me. Which I don't blame them. I
mean, to be perfectly honest, when my parents come to see us and they bring the dog, I probably spend more time saying hello to the dog than I
it's
do
like move over, human.
Parents.
Yeah. No, I get that. I totally get that.
Hi, whatever.
But also,
go ahead.
Also to share.
Yeah.
When this episode comes out, we are likely to be open as a first project in Payton and have our first few young people living in our new property and project in Payton, which is really exciting. This has been a project that's been in the pipeline for over a year, and we're finally there at the end of having our first few residents in, which is rather exciting.
And whilst I was taking advantage of the distance between us earlier to be cheeky about Lydia taking holiday, this is a big thing. This is, this is massively exciting. It sounds
Yeah, like
really
my
good.
team have been in place for a year, and we've been like building the service, coming up with new things and everything like that. So to finally be at this kind of milestone is huge for us as an organization, but also huge for my team who have worked really hard the last year. So we're really excited to meet our first painter in residence, which is amazing.
Amazing.
And before we move on, Andy, how are you? Obviously, you nearly died a few episodes back. Are you okay?
I can't believe you chose the moment I was coughing to take a sip of the coffee. um, I'm getting there, I think is the technical term. I'm not exactly fit and healthy. I mean, walking and talking and all that sort of stuff over any sort of distance does, yeah. So energy levels are interesting. I think you saw a bit of that at times the other day. Yeah. Hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll be a little bit more energetic with life in general.
Here is hoping, Andy. Here is hoping. One thing we aim for this podcast is to talk about stuff that hopefully brings clarity around life, things that we might hear about or we've talked to our young people about when we were support workers, and to bring some clarity to those areas, hopefully. So, Andy, what comes to mind when I talk a thing about introvert and extrovert without, looking at our kind of idea of how this episode is going to go? Like, what's your thoughts on, like, if I was to say introvert, extrovert, what comes to mind?
I think it's really easy to kind of imagine the stereotypes, isn't it? In that when we talk about someone who's introverted, it's very much someone who maybe likes to read a book. They're quite quiet. They very much keep themselves to themselves. If you see them in a gathering, they're the quiet one, and they might just disappear before the end of the gathering. Whilst the extrovert is the energetic one at the front of a group of people who is a bit loud and charismatic, and you kind of want to say shh to them every now and then. And they are the life and the soul of the party. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely what came, what I thought being an introvert and extrovert was when, I first thought of the terms were brought to me many moons ago. But what really surprised me is actually being an introvert and extrovert has got not really anything to do with socializing, which I thought it was. Is actually about where you get your energy from. So if you think about a battery, and you need to recharge your energy, with an introvert, they tend to need some alone time to recharge that energy, whereas an extrovert gets energy and recharges their battery by being around other people. So it's more about how they energize themselves rather than socializing, which kind of really surprised me because I just thought, when I first heard the terms, I was like, I'm 100% introvert. And like Chris, who some of us know, is 100% an extrovert. But actually, when you get into... Hey, Chris. Love you, Chris. I was thinking of him when you were like, sometimes you want to tell them to shut up. In a nice way. Love you, Chris.
I personally wasn't.
Lies. But yeah, it's actually... not, there is some people that might be, but most of us are not 100% one and 100% of the other. I am definitely, now I know a little bit more about it, I'm definitely more introverted than extroverted. But yeah, learning more about it really changed my understanding of it and also helped me navigate life better, to know actually I need, even though I like my alone time to energize, actually I still need that socialization for the extrovert part of me. Which really surprised me when I learned more about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a kind of spectrum of of how you need to kind of recharge yourself. I mean, I'm definitely on the introvert side. There's no two ways about it. Which I remember there being conversations I used to have when I was a support worker, very much kind of talking about how I feel or how I felt kind of talking with people. And a common reaction was like, what? You kind of struggle with that a bit? I'm like, actually, yeah. Because what you see of me is me kind of putting energy into it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that because, like, I think a lot of people that we work with, Andy, are really surprised when I say I'm an extrovert because I am really sociable at work. Again, obviously,
I think she meant
a lot of
introvert
people.
just then, but never mind.
No. At work, I'm extroverted.
Oh, at work you're extroverted.
At work, yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
So at work, people think I'm an extrovert, and they're surprised that I'm an introvert because at work I'm an extrovert because I'm always with people. Like I never like go away and need some alone time to recharge. But that is all my extrovert percentage of me used.
Yes.
So when I'm finished work, I have nothing left to give to anyone. I am totally drained. And that's why I look forward to nights in at home, watching TV, reading a book, curled up on the sofa, because I really need that time to recharge. So, like you said, a lot of people tend to be surprised by I think me and you, Andy, as well, of being like, oh, you're introverted, because we are able to be extroverted when needed.
Oh yeah, totally. That is exactly what it was that people were seeing. I'm also very aware that this is slightly our little kind of counselling session.
I know.
Almost. Is this like our personal therapy? I mean, is this the future of the podcast that this is us talking therapy?
Maybe we should go back to maybe we should go back and speak to our bosses and be like, we need to go on some sort of course so then we can have this as a therapy episode and become trained therapists. Who knows?
But in general, introverts kind of prefer kind of smaller groups, kind of one-to-one conversations, and this is slightly kind of stereotyping a little bit. One thing that I didn't really appreciate when I was at uni is that I had a fantastic group of friends that I was living with at uni. And I would like take myself off to bed and play video games for like an hour. And every now and then they'd be like, I thought you went to bed. I'd be like,
I'm smiling because that was me at uni. So like my housemates used to laugh because they'd be like, Lydia goes to bed so early. And I do go to sleep quite early. I love my sleep. But I'd go to bed early, like an hour before I want to really go to sleep. And I'd like watch YouTubers, vloggers, because that was kind of like the in thing when I was in my late teens, early 20s, many moons ago. And then they'd be surprised that, they'd see me up to go to the toilet or go down and get a glass of water. And they were like, you went to bed like an hour and a bit ago. And I'm like, yeah, I was watching stuff in bed. I just needed some time on my own, which they didn't really understand.
Totally get that.
So, that's very different to, extroverts as well. But one thing that I think is really helpful, just going back to the introverts as well, is introverts tend to be more reflective or observant, and they, people watching. I do that quite a lot. I'll take myself to a coffee shop by myself, do kind of observe, people watch, reflect. This one surprised me. Introverts tend to think before speaking. Now, I do tend to think things over and process things more before an immediate response. However, sometimes I don't think before I speak and my filter goes, which can be a problem. So that one I was a bit like, I think I am that to some degree, but not fully.
Yeah, and this is all kind of stereotypes. This is all kind of traits almost. This is all very much doesn't apply to everyone all the time. So
True.
I know that under certain situations, I can take longer to think an answer through. I might prefer to
Yeah.
actually reflect on what it is I want to say, maybe even write it down first before I
Yeah.
actually answer. But
And it's
there's
an
also
Andy
other
thing when you,
occasions.
yeah, it's an
But it's
Andy
also
thing where
but
the thing about Andy is when I talk to him and I know he's thinking before speaking because he goes, ooh, yeah. And then I can see that he's thinking the answer through, and it's just such an Andy thing, and that's just what came to mind.
but there's also other occasions when I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
And something comes out and we see what happens.
Which is when it's when that happens, normally havoc, and well, with me anyway. Sometimes when I used to work with Chris, sometimes I would just think before I spoke. I never said anything like massively offensive, but I was very direct and blunt. And sometimes Chris had to be my translator and be like, "What Lydia means is." So extroverts then. So extroverts tend to, like I said, feel energized by social interaction, being around people, love doing something with someone, an activity. So compared to an introvert, like they might like to play a video game themselves, an extrovert would like to play a video game with someone and be with someone in that activity. And conversation often boosts their mood and motivation. And if they spend too much time alone, they can be bored and flat. So I talk about Chris. I'm talking about Chris a lot in this episode because he's a massive extrovert. Hey, Chris. Love you, Chris. Chris is like the brother I never wanted. I love him. And I can always tell when he's had 2 weeks off holiday or he's had a day off or whatever, because he'll come back and it'll be like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa. And sometimes I just go, Chris, I need you to dial it down a bit because I need some alone time here because and he's like, oh yeah, sorry.
Now, bear in mind, we are both introverts talking about an extrovert. If there is a podcast with two extroverts, they would probably be having exactly the opposite.
Oh yeah, being like, those boring introverts don't want to do anything. I get that. Sometimes I'm always just like, I always laugh because I go, wow, I know you've not been around anyone for a little while because you're needy. And he's like, yeah. I was bored. And
the really funny thing is, I've had someone turn around to me and be like, "Whoa, you really need company, don't you?" Just because I was talking at them.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely have those moments, but I think introverts need extroverts in their lives. Like I definitely need that in my life because I can enjoy my alone time so much that sometimes I don't realise I'm lonely or I'm isolated, and extroverts will bring me out of that and be like, no, Lydia, we're going to do something together. And I'm always thankful for those people in my life because, like I said, I'm not 100% an introvert. I do have extrovert qualities as well. I always say, like, if I was to put a percentage on it, I'm probably 75%, 80% introvert, and that 20% is extrovert, part of me. And so I'm always thankful for the extroverts around me to bring me out of that slumber and just to remind myself, yes, I've recharged by being on my own now, but I need that social interaction because we all need it. We all need to have people in our lives to interact with. That's how human beings have been designed. We need people in our life to connect with and have that connection and socialization. So I joke about extroverts and everything of them being, particularly Chris, sometimes being annoying and being like, whoa, but actually I'm so thankful I've got a person like Chris in my life at work to bring me out of those times where I have had my introverted moment. It's come to an end and I need to be brought out of it because sometimes I love it too much that I can end up being
I'm thankful
loner.
that you got to the positive point there.
You're welcome.
Because I think the point is it's about being aware of the other and aware of how, if someone is acting a particular way, it's not because they're off on one or they are upset with you or they just grumpy or whatever. It's just how their energy level works.
And I think it's also good to remind people that that the people that are extroverts, it doesn't mean that they don't have social anxiety because they like to be around people or they need to be around people. And introverts have social anxiety, and that's why because they are very different. It's nothing to do with anxiety. It's nothing to do with mental health. It's all about how that person recharges and, re-energizes. Because we've all got that social battery. We've all got that battery where we need, do you know what? I just need some time to just recharge. And it looks different for everyone. And one thing I would say as being an introvert, that's something a counsellor told me when I was in therapy, which was really, really helpful, is as an introvert, like I said, socialising is still really important. So when people want to meet with me, I used to just say yes, 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 and I'd be all socialising, and then I'd have nothing left, and I'd be so run down, so tired, so fatigued, and I didn't know why. And what she said was, you're doing too much extrovert, like you are extroverted to a certain degree, but you're doing too much. So what she said to me is, when you're looking at your diary, is thinking, is this an output where I'm going to have to put a lot of energy out, or is this an input where I can just take a step back and people are investing something in me, and that's going to recharge me a little bit? And the way that I've looked at that has changed my life, because now I'm just like, no, I don't want to meet this person then, because I've already got an output that week, and it's just helped me manage my time better. And I try and not have, I probably meet people twice a week max during the week and one person on the weekend, so I've got that time to be by myself. And I think as an introvert or an extrovert, I think it's really important that you manage your calendar and your social calendar to the point that it works for you and how you energize, because sometimes we neglect that part of ourselves and we burn out from socializing, from being around other people, from being at work, and we forget that time to schedule for ourselves to recharge and re-energize. And that is just as important as being there for someone else, or making sure that you see enough of those people that are important to you so they don't think you're neglecting them. Like, remember to put yourself at the top of your priority list.
Yes. I'm struggling
Went on a little bit of a
to
TED
follow
talk
that. I think one last thing is, just because someone seems to be the life of the party doesn't mean they're necessarily getting their energy from that party.
Good note to end on.
To the weirdest news, alien squirrels or a cat that talks, Florida man on a llama walk, headlines strange and stories wild.
Now, Lydia,
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I remember back in the day when the price of a pint at the right student location was £1.50.
Wow, that's back in the day, because when I was at uni, it was a bit more than that. Not massively, but a bit more than that.
I mean, it was Manchester as well, and
Oh, it's the north, yeah.
It was up north. And so when I go to the pub now, things feel a bit pricey in comparison. Now, a pub in Leeds was aiming to do like a 1970s retro thing over 4 days. Now, bearing in mind this is back in this is a 1970s thing, they were aiming to sell a pint of beer for 25p per pint. They did that for. They did that. So the idea was to do it for over 4 days. It was a particular kind of lowish, in like low alcohol pints, for 1 out of their 4 days, because the council kind of turned around and said, actually, that's irresponsible. You can't do that. That's in breach of what's called the mandatory license conditions on a minimum alcohol pricing. So they started it. They were told, you can't do that. Guess what they did?
They stopped?
they did stop. They then sought legal advice and discussed it with the local authority. And then they started offering the pints. I think it's the first pint for absolutely free. So over the rest of, that was the loophole. So over the 4-day event,
love that,
they were giving away I don't know the particular pale ale brand, but they were giving away pints for absolutely nothing at all because they were told that they couldn't sell it for 25p.
Love that for them. Well, I guess you do have offers, don't you, in like certain establishments where they go like buy one get one free. So you get one free and then you buy one afterwards. Same kind of difference. Yeah. Because we all know people don't just go for one pint, do they?
No, and I think
definitely not in North. That's for sure. If you ever know someone that's a northerner, they could drink anyone to the table, in my opinion, from the south.
I mean, talking as someone who went to university up north, no comment.
So my weird news is a bit of an old news. However, we don't think it's still happening. However, it's a great idea and it is weird. So I had to share it. So crows, as in the bird crows, are being recruited to pick up discarded cigarette butts from the streets and squares of a Swedish city as part of a cost-cutting drive. You got birds being trained to pick up cigarette butts. That is incredible. The wild birds carry out the task as they receive a little food for every butt they then deposit in a bespoke machine designed by a startup near Stockholm. They are wild birds taking part on a voluntary basis. I love that, said Christian, the founder of Corvid Cleaning, the company behind the method. The Keep Sweden Tidy Foundation says that more than 1 billion, I'm assuming that's billion, cigarette butts are left on Swedish streets each year, representing 62% of all litter. That's quite a lot. And this city spends about 20 million Swedish kronor, so that's about 1.6 million pounds for the conversion, on street cleaning. So it's estimated that this method, by using crows, could save at least 75% of the costs involved with picking up cigarette butts in the city. So it's a pilot that was carried out across the streets in the city, and the birds were the key consideration in taking part. I hope they are paid a fair good wage on food for their service to the city, but I think that's flipping genius.
Unfortunately, I don't think the trial was picked up, but yeah, I think it's such a good idea.
Yeah, I guess it's, I guess there might be some concerns about how the birds are looked after and what if they swallow them. So I get that, but I just think that's a really innovative way of looking at a problem and finding an innovative solution.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of cigarette butts, and maybe put more cigarette bins out. Maybe that's the solution. I don't know, but crows. Who would have thought that they were flipping marvellous creatures that you could train to do that?
Who knew? Now, on that note, thank you for listening and or watching to What's for Tea. Please don't forget to subscribe to us on your favourite podcast provider or find us on the YMCA Exeter YouTube channel. Catch you next time.
Bye, guys.